Hey guys, this is Elma.
And this is Jerwin and
This is
Shopal.
Chopal.
And we're two
Two
Asians
Asians
and
and
a
a
dog.
dog.
For today's video, our first video, we wanted to share 5 tips that has helped us along our financial journey. So let's go ahead and get started. We are two Asians and a dog, and our channel is about reaching our journey to 8/12/2024, which is our retirement date.
In this channel, we'll be covering finances, retirement planning, real estate, travel, and our journey to us retiring early. Make sure you watch till the end of the video to hear our tip of the week.
Tip number 1 is tracking your expenses. This includes tracking your day-to-day expenses, such as your mortgage or rent, your car payments, your gas and utilities, but you also want to include items like your savings. A lot of people don't include savings in their expenses, so definitely have a category for your savings, as well as other miscellaneous items like travel expenses or other things that aren't usually easily tracked.
So once you have your expenses, ideally you want to track it for 30, 60, or 90 days. In this case, you can analyze where every single dollar goes.
Once you've tracked all of your expenses for the last 90 days, for example, now the next thing to do is review all of your information. So you want to take a look at item by item where this money is going and what you're spending your money on. Now, this allows you to decide whether you're overspending on certain categories in your expenses. And also, you're able to identify which areas you can cut back on and which areas you can save.
If you're responsible enough, use your credit card to track all your expenses. If you're not responsible enough, use your debit card to track your expenses. Even worse, if you don't trust yourself to use your debit card, use cash to track all your expenses. This is also known as the Dave Ramsey approach, which is aka the JAR method. Now you know your financial position, it's time to go over the dreaded B word, budget. How do you create a budget? I'm glad you asked.
So when you're creating your budget, you're going to have 2 categories: your fixed expenses and your variable expenses. Fixed expenses are any expenses that do not fluctuate or change. These include your mortgage payment, or it could be your rent, also your car payments or any loans such as student loans. Variable expenses are expenses that changes over time or month to month. Now, these can include your gas bill, your utilities can sometimes vary month to month, your entertainment expenses, and travel as well can be variable.
Your family expenses too.
Oh, yes, that's right.
In the beginning, you want to create a simple budget. You can use tools such as Mint, even Excel, or just a plain line paper.
Okay, so you're going to have 2 categories in your budget: your budgeted amount. Chopal's barking. Okay, so you have your budgeted amount and then you have your actual amount. So your budgeted amount is based off of your expenses that you've collected over the last 90 days. You take your average and then that is your budgeted amount. Now, your actual amount is going to be the expenses that you're tracking. So month to month, let's say your budgeted amount for groceries is $100. At the end of the month, you tally up all of your expenses for your groceries and you put in how much your actual amount that you spent for that category. So for example, if I budgeted $100 for my groceries for that month and I actually spent $200 because I had a family over and we had a get together and I ended up buying more groceries than usual, then I would be able to identify what areas I'm overspending or what areas that I spent below.
And that happens all the time. Lastly, don't forget to add your most important budget, your savings bill, which what we like to call our why bill. Tip number 3, find your why, aka your goal.
Do you know what your why is?
Whether it's retiring early, switching jobs, getting out of financial hole, or wanting to be there for all your kids' events. Or laying on the beach drinking Mai Tai, which, by the way, nobody does that.
If you don't have a strong why, your path can be swayed here and there. For example, our why is to retire early. And not just early, we want to retire in our 40s. So every decision, every financial decision that we have made is aligned with the goals that we have in mind. Now, when most people think about their why or their goals, it's attached to material possessions or even status. While that's fine, make sure you're also focusing on your health. Have you ever heard of the saying, health is wealth? Well, you definitely want to focus on your health so that you can enjoy the wealth that you're also building.
Tip number 4, sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice to get on the right financial path? Do you know what holds most people back? Ego. Ego is your worst enemy. Ego is the little devil on your shoulder saying different things to you. For example, keeping up with the Joneses, aka the Kardashians. Ego is the reason we get peer pressured into buying things that we don't need or maybe not even want. Ego is the reason we buy the latest and greatest gadgets. Ego is also one of the reasons why we go to expensive dinners when we can't afford it. Ego is also why we spend $4.95 on a drink at Starbucks when we can have a 60-cent iced coffee.
Yeah. Social media is the second largest influence today. So start following positive businesses and like-minded people across all of your social media platforms.
Follow 2 Asians and a dog on IG.
Now, to help you combat your ego, surround yourself with like-minded people. Jim Rohn famously said, "We are the average of the 5 closest people we spend our time with." Who are you in that group? If you're the smartest person in your group, then you may want to find a new group.
Tip number 5, tell everyone what your plans are. We are all in different stages of our lives. Whether you plan to start a family, going back to school, starting school, planning your retirement, learning real estate, learning the stock market. Whatever you do, you want to tell the world so you build a team around you. We found that most people we encountered are really good people and really positive people. Therefore, you want to stay away from negative Nancys. You want to be around positive Toms. Those are the people you want to surround yourself on a daily to help you uplift yourself to your goals. Also, when people around you know what your goals are, you won't be pressured to do something counterintuitive to your goals. You won't be pressured to go out to expensive dinners, having multiple drinks at the bar, because they'll know what your goals are. They'll be more open to having dinners at home, having drinks at home, because deep down, honestly, people don't care what you do. They really care who you're with.
Okay, to sum everything up, our 5 tips is to track your expenses, budget, budget, budget. Find your why and know what you're willing to sacrifice. And lastly, tell everybody, tell the whole world what your plans are.
Now, we know there's only 5 things in our list, but these 5 was the most impactful during our journey to our financial freedom. So please stay tuned and subscribe to our videos to make sure that when we do expand from 5 to 10 things on our list, that you'll be notified.
All right, so that is everything we have for you guys today. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a thumbs up. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. You can find us on IG at 2 Asians and a dog. Now it's time for Tip of the Week.
Tip of the week, when you do your budget, make sure when you have your expenses and income that on your expenses, you round up. For example, if your expenses is $3,200, let's say $3,800 a month, round that expenses to $4,000. All right. If your income is, let's say, at $4,200 a month, round that down to $4,000. So therefore, you're always going to have some kind of margin for error.